time for book club.
Hello, lovely listeners, and welcome to January the 12th, 2023, Awake in the North Book Club. This evening will be divided into two sections. First will be our own lovely Asra, as she reads through the Fra Dautha Sinfjotla, the Death of Sinfjotli. Enjoy.
Fra Dautha Sinfjotla. Sigmund, son of Volsung, was a king of the French. Sinfjotli was his oldest son, and the second was named Helgi, the third Hammond. Borghild, Sigmund's wife, had a brother. Her stepson Sinfjotli and her brother both wooed the same woman, and because of this, Sinfjotli killed her brother. When Sinfjotli came home, Borghild told him to leave, but Sigmund offered her compensation for her brother's death, and she was forced to accept this. At the funeral for her brother, Borghild was serving beer. She took a large horn full of poison and served it to Sinfjotli. When he looked inside the horn, he saw that there was poison in it, and he said to his father, "This drink is cloudy, father." Sigmund took the horn and drank everything in it. It said that Sigmund was so hardy that he was impervious to poison, whether by skin contact or by drinking it. But his sons were impervious only by skin, not internally. Borghild brought another hornful to Sinfjotli and told him to drink from it, but it went exactly as before. And then she brought him the horn for a third time, and she mocked him for not wanting to drink from it. Sinfjotli spoke as he had before to his father, but Sigmund said, "Wet your mustache, son." Sinfjotli drank and fell dead immediately. Sigmund carried Sinfjotli's body in his arms for a long time till he came to a long, narrow fjord where he saw a little boat and a man standing on it, who offered to ferry Sigmund over the fjord. But when Sigmund put the body of his son on the boat, the ferry was full, and the ferryman said that Sigmund would need to walk around the fjord. Then he shoved off from the shore and disappeared. King Sigmund remained for a long time in Denmark, in Borghild's kingdom, after he was married to her. But then Sigmund returned to the kingdom he had in France, and there he married Hjordis, daughter of King Eylimi, and their son was Sigurd. King Sigmund fell in a battle against Hundug's sons, and after that, Hjordis remarried to Alf, son of King Hjalprek. Sigurd grew up with him while still a boy. Sigmund and all his sons were far better than other men in strength and height, in courage, and in all achievements, but Sigurd was the greatest of all, and in the old sagas, people say that he was greater than all other men, and that he was the noblest of all warrior kings.
So does that sound familiar to anybody here?
Yeah.
It's pretty much what we've been reading the last couple of weeks in the Chronicles of Sigurd.
Doesn't seem very whatchamacallit, it doesn't ring any bells to me.
Right. The last couple book clubs that we've had, unfortunately, have not been able to join us. We've been reading these stories in detail. This is basically a recap of what's been happening for the last couple weeks, and the stories have been leading up to this point. One of the things that stands out to me, being the bearded man that I am, when the drinks were being brought to Sinfjotli, and he kept handing them to his father told him, "Wet your mustache, son," which is very appropriate for anyone who has facial hair. Even as I'm sitting here drinking just my Earl Grey, every drink I take, I have to wipe my mustache off because it gets all over your face no matter what you're drinking. I thought it was interesting the way he mentioned it as to instead of just take a drink or drink up or don't be a slob, things like that, he intentionally said, wet your mustache, son.
With him being impervious to the poison and stuff, would he or would he not have maybe tasted it and known it was there?
That is an excellent question.
But it doesn't affect him because of reasons. Because
Right.
the whole reason he handed it to him was, hey, this looks really cloudy. So he tasted it to see if it tasted funny, which to me, or that's how my brain interpreted that. Okay, Dad will be able to tell if this tastes funny because Dad's Dad. Well, Dad drinks it, doesn't say anything,
Right.
but again, the previous thing implies he can taste it. And if he tasted it and knew something was wrong, why did he give it to him?
Did he know that his son was fallible to internal poisons? Because to his knowledge, the kids were all impervious on the outside. Did they not know that he would die ingesting it? If you look at the next couple verses, he talks about how he carries his son's body around for quite a while. To me, that implies a level of grief and, oh crap, my son wasn't as strong as I am. Now he's dead. It's my fault. It's my burden to bear his body around for a while as I grieve.
There's that too.
So my understanding of it, for what it's worth, is that he wasn't quite aware that it would affect the children differently than it did him. He probably thought that everyone was impervious to it, all of his family. That's one of those things that you're right until you're proven wrong, and you're only proven wrong once.
One could also argue that that's indicative of, not just the gods, but parents not knowing that what's going to affect their children the way it does until it happens.
Right.
And the gods are just like us that way.
Several in here have children with dietary issues, whether it be for simply just eating and drinking or actual brain chemistry issues, like red dye number 40, I think, is one of the main culprits. Drives a lot of kids nuts. You don't know until you do. And you give your kid a peanut butter sandwich thinking everything's fine. Suddenly, your kid's flopping on the floor like a fish, and you realize, oh crap, he's allergic to peanuts.
Mm-hmm.
So it might very well be that he didn't know his son would be affected by the poison until he did, and at that point, oops.
A little late.
Yep.
This is true.
Any other questions, comments, concerns about this story?
I absolutely have to agree with the Beast there on the whole front of the father most likely not having known that his sons would be affected by the poison that way. I would absolutely have to agree that with what happened in the story on that one.
I love how there is it made me think of Greek mythology whenever it mentioned the ferryman.
Mm-hmm.
And I never thought about that in a Norse way. I was like, okay, the Greeks have a ferryman, and then there's other things for other people. And that was just something that stuck out to me. Also, note for the YouTube folks, because I had to make this note for D&D the other day, because I thought a fjord was a very thick forest. It's a lake, by the by.
Yep.
A fjord is a lake.
Very deep, very cold lake.
Yes, I told my D&D characters they were in the Elven Fjord, thinking that it's a very thick forest. It is not. It is a lake. I didn't know that until later. So, you two people, that's a lake.